Welcome to Godly Play. My name is Tatiana, and I'm going to tell a story about the faces of Easter. Now, I know you're probably wondering why Pastor Kari or Laura isn't doing the story today, but we thought that this would be a good story for a kid to tell. So today I'll be telling the story about the faces of Easter. So in the beginning, the baby was born. God chose Mary to be the mother of God. I'll say it again, and this time I hope you can catch the words. God chose Mary to be the mother of God, and the Word was born, a wordless child. When the baby looked up into the face of the mother Mary, he saw the cross there. And when he looked up into the face of his father Joseph, he saw the cross was there too. The mother Mary and the father Joseph held the baby close. They kept the baby warm. They gave the baby everything the baby needed to grow. And he began to grow. I'm still growing, if you were wondering. And after all, Jesus was a baby and then a kid, just like me and you. Now I wonder if there's anything in your house that you could bring and put beside this picture to help us tell more about this part of the story. Look around and see. I will go get one of my favorite stuffies and put him beside the picture of the Christ child to show more of the story. I wonder what Jesus snuggled with to sleep. This is my stuffy Herbert, so he's going to watch the lesson right here. Okay. I don't know what you're going to get. You're the only one in the world that knows that. And if you don't feel like getting something, that's okay. The baby then grew and became a boy. When he was about 12 years old, he went with his mother Mary and his father Joseph, and with many other people from their village of Nazareth, to the great city of Jerusalem to keep one of the high holy days. When the celebration was over, the people from Nazareth went out through the great high gate and started on the road towards home. This was a long journey that took days and days, and a big crowd of people traveling together to keep each other safe from robbers and thieves along the road. Suddenly, Mary and Joseph discovered that Jesus was not there. They thought that he had been playing with the other children from their village as they walked together. They hurried back to the great city of Jerusalem to find him. Mary and Joseph looked in the dark and narrow streets. They looked in the marketplace where they had bought their food. They looked where they had spent the night. They looked everywhere. Wonder if you had been lost. Where would your parents find you? I bet they would be so happy when they did. Well, finally, they looked in the temple. And there he was. He was talking to the rabbis, the priests, for the Jewish people, that's a pastor, like my mom and dad. When he spoke, they listened because he knew so much. When they spoke, he listened because he wanted to learn more. Mary and Joseph then asked Jesus the question all parents ask their children, the question kids can never answer. Why did you do this? And Jesus said something very strange. He said, "Didn't you know I would be in my Father's house?" Mary and Joseph did not understand. Their house was in Nazareth, where Joseph's carpenter shop was. They did not understand, but they did not forget. Now, I wonder what there is in your house that you could help us tell more about this part of the story. Look around and see if you see something. I will get something and put it by the picture of the boy who was lost and found to help us tell more. Jesus grew and he became a man. When he was about 30 years old, he went to the river Jordan where his cousin John was baptizing people. Do you see John? You can just see the back of his head and his hair. And you can tell he was a wild man. He ate locusts and wild honey. Honey sounds good, but locust just sounds crunchy. Jesus waded into the river until he was face to face with John. He said, "Baptize me." John looked at Jesus as if it was for the first time. Now he saw who he really was. "How can I baptize you? You are the Messiah, the one who we have been waiting for. You must baptize me." But Jesus said, "No, it is written that you will come before me and prepare the way. Baptize me." Jesus went down into the darkness and chaos of the water. When John lifted him back into the light, there were people there who said they saw a dove come down from heaven close to them and come close to him. There were also people there that day who said they heard a voice. The voice said, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased." After Jesus was baptized, he went on across the river Jordan into the desert. He stayed there for 40 days and 40 nights to learn more about who he was and what his work was going to be. Now, I wonder what you might have done in your house to help us tell more of the story. Look around and see if you can see something. I'm going to grab this bowl of water to remind me that I'm baptized too. I invite each one of you to go get something and put it by the picture to help us show more of the story. I've also got this bowl of water, which is going to help me remember when Jesus was baptized and when I was baptized. You know what would be really cool? If we all drew our own versions of these pictures. I wonder what your pictures would look like. Jesus then went to the desert to discover more about who he was and what his work was going to be. He was there for 40 days and 40 nights. There was little to eat and drink. One day he heard a voice. It said, "Why don't you turn one of these stones into bread and have something to eat?" Jesus said, "No. To be a real human being, we need to eat more than just bread." Suddenly, it was as if Jesus were on the top of the great temple in Jerusalem. The voice came back. "If you are really the Son of God, why don't you jump and see if God sends the angels to catch you before you hit the stones below?" Jesus said, "No, we do not need to test God." Then it was as if Jesus could see all the kingdoms of the world. The voice came back again. "If you see and follow me, I will make you king over all of these kingdoms." Jesus said, "No, I am to be king, but not that kind of king." Then the voice went away. Now, I wonder what there is in your house that can help us tell more of this part of the story. Look around and see if you find something. I'm going to get something to set beside this picture, and I invite you to go get something too. I've got a cup of sand to help me remember when Jesus was in the desert. Jesus came back across the Jordan River and began to do his work. But what was his work? His work was to come close to people, especially the people no one else wanted to come close to. See, he has to come close to this blind man. He's so close that he touched the blind man's eyes. When Jesus came close to people, they changed. They could see things they could never see before. They could do things they could never do before. They became well. I wonder who I know that might need Jesus close by. I wonder if you know anybody who might need Jesus too. Jesus also told parables. Finally, he knew that he had to become a parable. So he turned toward Jerusalem for the last time. Now, I wonder if there is something in your house that you could help us tell more of the story. Look around and see if you can bring something to show more about this part of the story. I will go get a parable box. This gold box holds a parable and is special, just like Jesus became a parable. I wonder what you will bring. Jesus went to Jerusalem for the last time. It was the time of the Passover, and the city was full of people from many different lands. They thought Jesus was coming to be king, but they weren't paying attention. He wasn't riding on a great white horse when he came into the city. He wasn't being carried in by soldiers. He was riding a donkey, and it wasn't even his. He had borrowed it. That's kind of funny, a borrowed donkey. Still, that Sunday when Jesus came into Jerusalem, people waved many branches, which were signs of the kings. On Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Jesus went into his temple to teach. Every night he went back to the Mount Olives with his 12 disciples. The people watched him and whispered that the Mount of Olives was where angels were supposed to come down to make an army to drive away the Roman soldiers. One day when Jesus was teaching in the temple, he said, "Did you see that old woman over there? She's going to put something in the money box. Listen." Do you hear anything? No. She put the smallest coin into that box. That's all the money she had. Now, here comes a rich man. He has so much money to put into the money box that he has to have help carrying it in. His money makes huge clanking and ringing as they pour it into the box. Now, I wonder which one gave the most, the old woman or the rich man. Some said that the rich man gave the most. Some said the old woman. The temple guards said, "On Thursday we will take him." But on Thursday, they could not find him. That evening, Jesus and the 12 hurried through the dark streets to a house. They climbed up the stairs to an upper room and shared their Last Supper together. After they had everything that they wanted to eat, Jesus took some bread and gave thanks to God for it. Then he broke it and he said something like, "Whenever you break the bread like this, share it. I will be there." He also took a cup of wine, gave thanks to God for it, and said, "Whenever you share a cup of wine like this, I want to be there. And I will be there." What was he talking about? He was always saying things like that. How could they know? Still, they did not forget, and later they would understand. Suddenly, Judas got up and left. The rest sang a hymn and then went to the Garden of Gethsemane onto the Mount of Olives. Jesus wanted to pray. When he finished, he joined the 12, but Judas came out of the dark and greeted him. This was the signal for the temple guards to take him. They too came out of the shadows and took Jesus away with them into the night. The 12 disappeared into the darkness as well. Now, I wonder what you might find in your house that can help us tell more of this part of the story. I'm going to grab a donkey from our nativity set. I think it's funny that Jesus rode into town on a borrowed donkey. Here we are. It's okay. Here we are. Got the donkey. The night was a confusing one. The next day, Jesus was taken outside to the walls of the city and crucified. That afternoon, Jesus died. The sky grew dark. Jesus was taken down from the cross and buried in a cave. A great stone was rolled into the opening door of the cave to close it, like a door. Saturday was so quiet, you could almost hear the earth breathing. On Sunday, it was the women who had the courage to go to the tomb just to be close to Jesus. They wanted to remember, even if it was sad. When they came back to the tomb, they found that the stone had been rolled back and the tomb was empty. Jesus had died on the cross, but now he was alive. Somehow he was still with them, as he is with us, especially in the bread and the wine. When you look at this side, you know what's on the other side. You know that the other side is there. When you look at this side, you know that this side is also there, and you cannot pull them apart, as hard as you can try. Wait a minute, there's something wrong. Here's the beginning, the middle, and the end. Look, if we only had this side, the story has had an end, but there's also this side. The ending is also a beginning, so we can't leave this story in a line. Let's see what we can do. This is good. Now the story will never end, and it can keep going and going. I wonder what part of the story you like best. I wonder what part of the story you think is the most important part. I wonder where you are in the story. What part of the story is about you? I wonder if there's any part of the story we can leave out and still have all the story we need. That's our story.